Didn't see you there. Hey everyone, it's Ange. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. So if you're anything like me, you read a lot of books in 2024. And not just books. You read comics, and you read webtoons, and you read pretty much anything you could get your hands on. Now, it wasn't always like this for me, but 2024 probably was the year that I read the most books. And I decided that it would be fun if I ranked them all. Put them in a tier list. Books, mangas, webtoons, short stories, everything. So let's go on over to my computer. Welcome to my desk, everyone. We are here and we are ready to rank. So we've got a lot of things to rank. I think around 120 of them. So I've separated them out into webtoons, manga, books, and then other miscellaneous things. So I think we're just gonna jump right into it, starting with the webtoons. So first we have a webtoon called Adding You to My Cart. It is a BL, and the reason I started reading this in the first place was just because of the art, which, oh, the art is so good on this. The story is really cute. It's about a boy who, his family is rich and he can't really find friends because he finds everyone's using him for money, till he finally makes a friend in his class and gets a crush on him and all that jazz, and read it to find out more. I think, oh, I do like this one a lot. I will probably, I like this one a lot, and the part they're at right now is pretty good, so I'm gonna put it at A tier. Next, we have My Best Friend is an Eldritch Horror. This is a new one I just started like last week to scratch the itch of unfathomable horror befriends a normal human. I don't know why, I just love that so much, and it's so hard for me to find things like that. And this one popped up and I was like, hey, let's give it a try. It's pretty good so far. There's only a few chapters out, so it kind of feels unfair to rank it right now. It's kind of mid so far. I'm gonna put it in B just because it's got the Eldritch Horror, but it's still new. Next, City of Blank. This one is another top tier. I love it so much. Again, with the monster thing, I just love me some horror. I love me some monsters, and the concept of blanks being things that steal people's faces and then get their memories and continue living as them, it's just so horrifying, but also so amazing. The story is great. I can't wait to read it every single week. So I'm gonna, they'd totally be between A and S. You know what? I'm gonna put it in S just because I enjoy it so much. I think what we're gonna find out with my rankings is that I like to rank a lot of things really high just because I enjoy them. So if you were looking for some sort of objective ranking, then that's not it. This isn't it. Next, boyfriends. I know there's a lot of controversy with this one, and a lot of people seem to hate on it, but man, it's just so cozy. What else am I supposed to say? The story is fine. It's slice of life. I'm gonna put it in B. Next, the Avatar: The Last Airbender webtoon, which is just the comics that are being put onto Webtoon. I'm finally reading them on Webtoon, so I'm counting it as Webtoon. So I've only read the first story arc so far of it, and I thought it was good. I thought it was fine. I love Avatar: Last Airbender. I watched it when it first came out on Nickelodeon. I rewatched it during COVID, and I could probably rewatch it a million times. It is just amazing, and I think the comic is doing a great job of continuing it. So A tier, easy. Everything is Fine, another horror. It feels like there's no words to kind of describe what's going on here. My biggest question, what the heck is underneath the freaking cat mask, man? What is going on in this one? A tier. The horror is great. I love dystopian things, and I feel like I don't read them enough, so that one kind of gets me going in that part of my brain, you know? Be My Villain is next, another BL, and you're gonna start to notice a little trend with as we go on. Be My Villain has the son of some superheroes meet the villain that they have been chasing, and they fall in love, but there's actually conspiracies and things underneath it. And it kind of gets really dark. And the art is great, and the characters are great, and right now we're in the midst of some beautiful, beautiful conflict, and right on the cusp of a final battle, it seems. Maybe a little training arc. Overall, I'm gonna put it in B tier. It feels like it's right on the edge of A and B, but I'm gonna bump it down because I just think these three are better. Next is another BL called Quality Content. Now, I read this one for a while, but I kind of got bored of it, so this year I dropped it. The art is good, but the story is just kind of like, meh, it's fine. I have a special little category down here for stuff I dropped, so it doesn't feel fair to rank it if I dropped it, because, I don't know, it's just vibes. I get it. So it's going there. Next up, we have My Brother's Not So Secret Boyfriend. Yet another kind of BL. This one is just so chaotic, and the characters are just so chaotic is still the good word for it. All of them seem so fleshed out and like they're their own people, and even though each chapter is pretty short, it conveys its story so well, and the heartfelt moments are so good and heartfelt. I'm gonna put it... Oh, I do enjoy this one a lot too. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Yeah, I think that's where it belongs right now. I'll probably shuffle up some things as we go. Next, we have The Greatest Real Estate Developer. And let me tell you, when I latched onto a webtoon and completely binged it, now, I'm not usually one to like isekai things, but oh man, freaking Lloyd, our main character here, he is just so entertaining, and my boy Javier, freaking swordsman, he is amazing. I cannot sing the praises of this webtoon enough. By the title, you wouldn't even think that it would be good. I don't know what you even think of it. Not something that I would want to read. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Definitely one of my favorites for this year. S tier, 100% easy mode. Next, we have one called Silent Screams. Now this one, I started reading when it was on Webtoon Canvas, and now it's on Webtoon Originals, so you could say I am an OG fan of this one. Right now, we're past the point that it got to on Canvas, so I'm just slurping up that story every week. So good. Again, I'm probably gonna have to put this at S tier right now. The way the story is going is just so captivating and so messed up, which I love. It's so bad, but I love it. Our next one is called Our Spirit's Chance. It's another one on Canvas that it was recommended to me, and the art just looked so great, so I gave it a little try, and there's not too much of the story done yet. It feels like we're still in the beginning and introducing the characters. So far, the art is amazing, and the world just seems so vast. It seems like there's so much to learn about the world, and that's why I am so interested to keep reading it, and so interested in the story. But because it's not too far in, I don't want to rank it too high yet, so I'm going to put it into B tier. Next up is Shelter. Now, Shelter is one of the first webtoons I actually started reading, and it's been really cool to see the art go from what it was in the beginning to what it is now. The improvement is freaking amazing and blows my mind, and the story is great, and it seems like we're kind of getting into the second arc of the story, and I just can't even believe how good this one is too. S. Easy. Again. Next, we have Rooftops and Roommates, which by the time this video gets posted, this might be over with, but as I'm filming, it's not done yet. There's still a few more chapters that need to come out. This is another one that I picked up kind of late into the game and binged so quickly. Just because the chapters are so short and so easy to read. And the story is good, and I love the characters, and I love the bromance our two main dudes got going on. And if you like supernatural things, and like when the human world meets the supernatural world, and what shenanigans can be happening because of that, I definitely recommend it. So, A tier for this one. Next up, we have High Spirits Neoma, which is about a spirit medium, I guess you could say, girl and a boy she meets who ends up unlocking his spiritual ability as well, and the struggles her family has had and kind of the generational trauma, I guess you could say, with her family and how they treat her and want the best for her, but also kind of abuse her in a way to get the best out of her. And the relationship between the two main characters is great. Little budding romance. I love it. I love the art in this one too. It's so good. And then anything with ghosts and spirits. I've been a ghost kid my whole life. So spiritual things like that just hit right in the childhood, right in the nostalgia. So I think with the art and the story as it is, that'll be A tier as well. Okay, up next, we have plus 99 reinforced wooden stick. And I would put this in the isekai category, even though it's not technically an isekai. It's more of a you die in the game, you die in real life, but you don't, that's not really how it works. Anyways, I love the kind of anti-hero trope of the main character who just wants to break stuff and see how much he can kill and what he can get away with in the game. And that's exactly what Peace, our main character of Wooden Stick, is. He is literally the god of chaos. So, I mean, where else can I put this besides A tier? The art is so good. If you like fan service, I recommend. If you don't like fan service, stay away, because there's a lot of fan service in this one. But the overall story is just so fun. It's just fun to see the antics that Peace gets up to with his freaking invincible stick. Like, what the heck? Next up, Blades of Furry. Another BL on the list. It is like Beastars, but ice skates and BL. If that doesn't captivate you, I don't know what will. The chapters for this one, as I was reading, were kind of publishing slower, which is fine. I know artists got stuff to do too. I think it goes about some of the ideas in a little bit more heavy-handed kind of way, which is perfectly fine, but maybe knocks it down from an A to a B tier to me. And I mean, B tier isn't bad. Ooh, next up, I love this one. Another one that I binged. Haha, another trend you'll be seeing is how many of these I binged. This one is called Atnomin. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's God, I just realized it's another human and monster pairing. Oh God. Oh no. I'm really putting myself all the way out there, aren't I? Oh, but man, the art is so good and the story is so good and I can't wait to read it every time the chapter drops. Man, it's a little messed up and it's a little smutty. Oh, it's so good. Okay, S tier. Easy. Again. Next up, we have one that I just started also. That hasn't been going too many chapters, called A Dream Deal. We haven't really gotten to the meat of the story yet, but it's got demons. It's got demons. It's a BL that checks all the boxes I need to be interested in something, apparently. But it hasn't been going on long and the chapters are kind of short. But the art is good. I think this one might be our first C tier so far. Next, we have Cursed Princess Club. I read this entire webtoon in a few days, from front to back, and it sucked me in like nothing else that I've read so far has. The art and the story, it went in such a different direction than I thought it was. I'm so glad that Gwendolyn's family didn't hate her or resent her, and it wasn't that stereotypical ugly stepsister kind of thing. Just the story was amazing. I highly, highly, highly recommend this one, and it's an S tier. Next up, we have Castle Swimmer, another BL. Notice the trends. I remember the very first season of this webtoon had me so captivated, and I loved it so much. But once it kind of went on after that first season, I kind of lost interest in it a little bit. I still read it every week and I still like it, and the art is amazing too. The story for me has gotten less interesting as it's gone on, just compared to that first season. So I'm gonna put it in B tier, again, just because that first season of it was so good. Next one is called Night and Day. It is another BL, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what this one is about. I just started reading it because the art is so good, and the author recently started publishing chapters again, and I just love the watercolor art style of it. It's so unique, and I just want to look at it all the time. It makes me want to draw, it makes me want to learn watercolor, but I don't really know what's going on in it. So I'm going to put it at C tier. Next one. It's called Taste of Illness, and this one was heavy and kind of dealt with some dark subject matter. I really liked this one. I was able to relate to it a lot. I don't know, it was kind of a difficult one to get through at times just because of the subject matter, but it's been a little while since I've read it, so I can't remember all of it off the top of my head, but I remember that I really liked it. So A tier. Okay, time for a little tangent as we have a little bit of stuff ranked. I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens to me. I tend to read so many things that I cannot remember what I've read. I keep track of the things I read, but not what's in them. So what I've started to do this past month is to just basically take notes and write down my thoughts at the end of everything that I read, just so I can remember everything that I read and remember what happened in it, because I lose track of things so easily that it's easy for me to just read and read and read and read and read, and everything's in and out of my brain, and it just kind of feels pointless to do that. So I wanted to try and remember things a lot better, so I'm writing things down so I actually remember what I read this next year. Okay, tangent over. Next, we have Not So Shoujo Love Story. Probably one of my favorite romance webtoons ever. It is funny, it is cute, the art is amazing, what the freak is handsome. It's so good. Read it. Seriously, just go read it. S tier. Next. We have one called Bad Plan Man. This one has not published a chapter in quite a while, but when it was publishing, I was keeping up with it. The concept is fun, the characters are wacky, and whatever. I don't really know the plot of the story yet, because not too many chapters have come out, but I'm excited to see where it goes. But I think I'm gonna put it in C tier, just because of the lack of chapters so far, and the lack of story. Next up, we have another BL called Tokyo Memories. This one is a great romance, and if you like angst, this one is great. So one of our main characters develops amnesia after he confesses to his friend, who was not willing to accept his confession at the time. But now that our main character has realized his true feelings and wants to basically reciprocate, his friend cannot do it because he doesn't remember anything. And it's angst, and it's beautiful. They have been on hiatus for a little while, but that does not stop me from loving the story. And it's going into B tier. Next up, this one is called Gray Is. This one has a lot of chapters out, but I have not read a lot of it. It's something that I pick up when I'm in between different series, so it's kind of hard for me to follow it just because of the nature of how I'm reading it. It seems like it's got angst and a little bit of trauma, and the characters seem very deep and just like they have their own stories that they want to tell. The story is a bit confusing, and I kind of struggled to keep up with it, so I'm gonna put it into C tier. Next up, another BL on the list. We have Boy Girlfriend, which I think is one of the most popular ones on Webtoon. And I really liked the beginning of the story because one of my favorite, I guess you could say, tropes about BL and like LGBT romance in general is the kind of discovering who you are part of it. It just feels so real, and our main character, one of our main characters in that, goes through that, discovering his true feelings. Actually, they both kind of go through that, discovering their true feelings for each other and what that means for them while dealing with their home lives and school lives and opinions of people and homophobia and all that. And I thought the first part of this webtoon was done really, really well. I mean, if not a little tropey, but like, who cares? Not me. But as we go into our second season, I started off really liking it, but it's been focusing a lot on a side couple that I don't like at all, and I think is toxic and just like bad news, and I don't like to read it, and it kind of makes me feel yucky. So I think that stops it from being A tier in and of itself, but the first season was good, but I think it'll be put into B tier just because of the icky last few chapters that I read. Next up is a classic that I'm sure freaking everyone has read at this point, Heartstopper. I have watched the Netflix series, and I think I actually am not caught up with it. I think I haven't watched the newest season of it, but I am caught up with the webtoon. And it's real. It feels very real. It can be hard to read at times because it feels so real, but at the same time, I applaud it for feeling real and dealing with topics that other things may not want to. And the art is great. I love the kind of pencil-y vibe that the art is. It's so good. A tier. Next up, we have High Class Homos. I love the concept of this one so much, and I love the shenanigans that everyone gets up to in this. I love all of the characters too. Again, they all feel so fleshed out, and like they have their own like thoughts and beliefs and everything. Even the stories with the side characters are all super good. And I'm going to put this also in A tier because I just cannot get enough of it and love to read it as soon as it publishes. Next up, another BL. Who would have guessed? And it's called Hello Hello. This is another one I picked up because of the art style. And this kind of hand-drawn, watercolory kind of aesthetic is just my favorite kind of art in the whole world. And if something has that art style, chances are I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna buy the art book, whatever. But this one drew me in with the art, and it kept me in with the story. Again, it's magic and different anthropomorphic beings and different races and all of that fantasy stuff that is so good. The romance is great too, and it just scratches that itch in my brain. I'm gonna put it in A tier. Next up, do not cringe, do not laugh at me, but it's the Jeff Woods the Killer BL webtoon. Don't laugh at me. This is actually really good, and I think it is a great reworking of the Jeff the Killer creepypasta. Like, some of the things it does with the webtoon format and how it shows Jeff's like insanity, it's just so good. And if you're someone who grew up reading creepypastas like I did and who is now into BL, just please give it a chance because it is so worth it. I promise it is so worth it. I am going to, oh god, don't freaking come after me for this. I have to put it in A tier. I have to do it. It's good. I promise. Next up, we have Lovebot that just finished. Lovebot to me felt a lot like Detroit Become Human, but better and BL. Again, what else can I say? That's pretty much what it is. It finished recently and it just wrapped up so nicely. So many things struggle with the ending, and I think it knew where it was going, it knew where it wanted to go, and it did it, and it did it well. And it's going into A tier because of that. Next, we have Morgana and Oz, which is another one I picked up because of the art style and stayed because of the story. I think I actually saw the creator's art on Instagram and was like, oh, this looks cool, let me go check out their webtoon. And it is so good. I love it. This is another one that I just cannot wait to read every single week, and I think right now it's on a hiatus, like the end of the season, waiting for the next season kind of thing. I binged what I could and then kept reading every chapter, so it's an S tier. Next up, another one that is finished, Uriah. This one is so messed up, I can't even explain to you how absolutely messed up this is. But if you are into horror and terrifying things and messed up stories and morally gray characters, this is the webtoon for you, I promise. It is completed. I thought the ending was great. It is also one of the first webtoons I started to read right at the beginning, and I've kept up with it ever since. And it is an S. It is so good. Please read it. Again, highly recommend. Next up, we have Fictional Skin. So the first season of it I really, really liked, and it came back recently for the second season. And the second season kind of seemed to take a pivot in tone from the first season, which I greatly welcome. It's kind of showing you how like toxic one of the characters can be and how it's affecting everyone else, where it's more subtle in the first season, but it's just telling its story in such a good way, and I am just so curious about what happens next. This one, based on pure enjoyment, I'm gonna put it in B tier, but I still recommend it. Next up, we have Soulmates. This one is a silly little comedy about a big ol' muscle mommy and her friends, or lack thereof, and her anxieties. It's just a fun little brainless kind of read for me. The story is not anything too groundbreaking, and it's just a silly little romance. The art is fine, and the story is fine, but it keeps me entertained. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. Oh boy, a big old famous one next. Tower of God. Now, I am on the Hell Train arc right now, and it's starting to pick up. When I tell you I have no idea what the heck is going on, I mean I have no idea what's going on, and I'm like 300 chapters into it. I just pretend like I know, and then keep reading and eventually pick up the pieces. It's just wild, and I don't know what's happening, but it keeps me entertained, I guess. I pick it up and put it down when I get bored of it. At this point, I'm kind of just determined to see it through to the end. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Sorry guys, I know it's a famous one. Ooh, okay. Clinic of Horrors. I had this one in my list for so long, not reading it, looking at it like, oh, this looks interesting, kind of checking out the first few chapters. And over the past few months, I dedicated myself to actually reading it and catching up. And I regret not doing it sooner because it is so good. The chapters are short, so it makes for a really easy binge read. These last few chapters have left me jaw on the ground, just completely flabbergasted. S tier. It's going into S tier. This one's a spicy one. It is called The Virgin Witch. This one I don't think is on Webtoon, the platform, but it is the format of a Webtoon, so I'm including it here. I would say it is definitely in the category. So if you're into that smutty smut and you want to read about this girl who goes and does the thing in her dreams with whoever she wants to and gets into all these wacky shenanigans because of it, and her hot elf boyfriend is there helping her, read this one. But also, okay, not just to say it's smut, the story is also really interesting. The ending was kind of mid, but it was a really fun read. And it's going into B tier. Thanks, Joe, for getting me into that one. Yes, I am name dropping you. Next. We have Out of Sight, Out of Body. Now, I was really worried that this one wasn't actually gonna finish because the author said they might drop it. But they recently started posting more chapters of it again, and I am very happy because I get to read more of it. I binged this one in like one night, like, I don't know, last year. And I was up way too late reading it. It really captivated me. It's another one with really short chapters, and it makes it really easy to be like, I'll just read another. And then before you know it, it's 4 in the morning and you've read an entire webtoon and you don't know what else to do with your life. But yeah, I'm gonna put it into B tier. Oh, did I mention it's a BL? Okay, The Guy Upstairs. The artist for this one is called Hansa. I started reading with her other webtoon. Was it called My Deepest Secret? Now that one was so good, and I just could not wait until the next one she made. And I actually started reading The Guy Upstairs when she was just posting like little drafts onto Canvas, and it got picked up as a full series. I do not have much hope that it'll continue because of some shipping wars and creator harassment that was going on, but as always with all of Hansa's stuff, it is just so good and the story is great and she writes amazing thrillers. I'm gonna put it into S tier with the hopes that we get more chapters of it soon. Next, we have Death Rescheduled. The author of this one, Snail Lords, also wrote Freaking Romance, I think it's called, which is another really popular one. And I liked that webtoon, so I decided to check out this one because same author, you know? I know I've said these words a lot, but I just love the like wacky shenanigans all the characters get up to and the kind of slang terms they use that are invented for the world. I think it's really imaginative and really creative, along with all the powers that the characters seem to have. And I really like the kind of messed up idea that you can kill a person once a year in this universe. It's just kind of messed up, but you don't really think about it because it's so normal within the world of the webtoon. I'm gonna put it into A tier. because I'm really interested to see where it goes. Next up, we have another Hansa webtoon called My Boss Doesn't Have a Face. And oh my gosh, am I in love with this webtoon? I cannot tell you how much I love it. The perfect romance. You've got the simp guy character and the strong female character, and you put them together and you get my favorite trope of characters put together. I love it, and I hope it gets picked up so she gets compensated for her work, because I just need to see more of this. S tier. The next one we have is School Bus Graveyard. Another one with our silly little ghosty guys, our silly little ghouls who are trying to kill everyone. And you don't really know what's going on yet, but you know our main characters gotta deal with them, and they're trapped and they gotta fight them. This is just another one that keeps me locked in for every single episode, and I just get so excited to read every single chapter that comes out, and I need to know what happens. I think, okay, I think it's gotta be S tier, but like a low S tier. Next up, we have one called Type Blind. Now, I have read the other webtoon by this author, which is, you can see a few over right here, and decided to pick this one up after the other one ended. And it's just a fun little fluffy BL romance. Another BL. Are we keeping count here? We might want to. It's just a fun, fluffy little romance, and I think it's cute, and I enjoy reading it, and yeah, I'm gonna put it in B. The Druid of Soul Station. Now, I picked this one up because I had just finished reading Solo Leveling at the time and was kind of looking for something in the similar vein, and this one showed up, and it kind of feels like the same idea, but you know, as it went on, I was just like, man, this one kinda isn't it, man. It's just the same thing over and over and over again, and I just not into it. I had to drop this one. So it's gotta go into dropped. I am so sorry. If you're looking for a power fantasy, I recommend Solo Leveling over this one. Next up on our list, we have I Want to Be a Cute Anime Girl. I picked this one up because it was on, I think it was nominated or on a list of, or won like one of the best webtoon awards or something like that. And it looked cute, so I decided to pick it up. And in the beginning, I really enjoyed binging it. And I thought it was really easy to binge, again, short chapters, and I liked the story it was telling, and it was really interesting, but as it went on and as I started to read the chapters as they published, and they don't come out too often, and the story just kind of stopped resonating with me. I just had so many webtoons on my list, I decided to drop it, unfortunately. Nothing against the webtoon itself, and I still definitely recommend it, but it just personally wasn't vibing with me anymore, so had to move on. Next up, we have Stare Down, which is another BL, add a point to the BL counter. Apparently we're doing that now. This one finished up kind of recently, and I thought it was fine. Again, it was just like a cute BL romance. The characters were really fleshed out, and I like how they worked through their problems together and didn't really have that like misunderstanding thing that goes on in romance a lot. But they seemed to work things out together, and just overall the characters felt really human. And it was just a good romance. I'm gonna put it right next to the other one by the same author. Look at those guys. Next up, another one that I started reading kind of recently called Moonchild. Now, you can see directly under it on the list is a little manga called The Summer Hikaru Died, which you will come to find out is one of my favorite mangas ever. And Moonchild is very, very similar to The Summer That Hikaru Died. It is another monster and spiritual beings one. I don't want to call it a BL, but it's got that like vibe to it. You've got your character who's like very obsessed with the main character, and you don't know whether it's out of love or whether it's out of just pure obsession. The whole concept of it is so intriguing. Even though it kind of loses me in the story here and there about what's going on. I think because I've read stuff in the genre, it's easier for me to keep up with, but it just like scratches that itch of the like monster obsessive relationship thing that I seem to enjoy so much. And I dare put it into S tier. Ooh, I do, Derek, because I really enjoy it. Oh, I read the whole thing in like 2 days. Next up, we have Evelyn and the Occult. Now this one, I originally dropped it partway through the last season. And that's because it kind of felt repetitive of the, oh, they have their powers and they have to fight the monster, and then, oh, everything's fine, but wait, there's another monster and they have to train their powers and then fight the monster. It did kind of do that, but I decided recently, because it finished up, to read the end, and I thought it ended good. I think just by nature of the fact that I dropped it, though, means it didn't really hold my attention too well. And it was very, very repetitive, so I think we might have our first D tier. The part I liked the most about it was the character designs, to be honest. Next, we have Lumine. Am I saying that right? I think it's Lumine. This was another one that I started reading towards the beginning of my Webtoon reading career. Recently it finished up, and you could tell that the author just wanted to kind of write an ending for it and get it out and have it finished. I think I was reading that the author said that they had just kind of moved on from the story because they wrote it when they were younger and it didn't really resonate with them anymore, but they wanted to give people an ending to it and not just leave it hanging, which I can appreciate. I think overall it was good and I loved the art, but again, the ending just kind of came out of nowhere and left a lot of loose ends. So I think I'm gonna put this one in C tier because the beginning was really, really good, but the ending was lacking. Jackson's Diary is the next one. It's another supernatural one, and I think the concept is just so unique. I mean, I hadn't really heard of it before besides, like, I don't know, Death Note's kind of similar, but not really. I love the setting in the 1980s. I love the 80s, if you didn't know that about me. This one again hits that spot in my brain where I just love 80s stuff and supernatural stuff. The one thing I think is really funny about this, that the character David looks a lot like my dad did when he was younger. And that's a little bit weird for me, but oh my god, the story is just so good. I'm gonna put it S for supernatural. Okay, I'll stop. Next up, we have Covenant. This one I saw because of, oh god, was it TikTok? I saw the creators' TikToks about it, and I was like, hey, that sounds interesting, let's give it a try. The art style is just, there's just something about it that is so good, and I love all of the tattoos on all of the characters. It is so good. Again, with the supernatural, it just scratches the supernatural itch in my brain that I like to read about ghosts. Chapters for this one published kind of slow, but the chapters that come out are really good. So I'm gonna put this one at A tier. I cannot wait to see what happens in the end of it. Next one, it is another BL called Eyes on Me. Now, this one kind of publishes short, I'd call like 1 page, even though there's no pages on Webtoon, like 1 page comics. Again, made it really, really easy to binge through it in one sitting. But as it kind of got past the first arc and one of the main characters like goes off to college and they kind of have a long distance relationship, that's kind of where it lost me. And it's another one that I had to drop. The initial story of it kept me hooked, but now that it seems like that original plotline has been resolved, it just felt like a good place to kind of put it down. Next up, we have A Spell for a Smith, and it is another romance, not a BL this time, don't add one to the counter. I feel like I can relate to our main character, Ivy, because of her crippling social anxiety. Obviously mine is not that bad, and I'm not shunned from society for being a witch like she is. The idea sometimes of having to go and to face people makes me really just want to have my house in the woods that's protected by wards that nobody can get through and be alone with my cat, you know? So I relate very heavily to her, but the relationship between our characters is just great, and the build up to it is so good. And how they each kind of deal with their own pasts and the things that have happened and how they are able to let each other into their lives. It is a great romance, and it goes in S tier. Next up, we have another BL. BL counter +1. It is called Of Dark Lords and Cabbages. A silly name, but great webtoon. Again, I love the art style. I like that a lot of it doesn't seem to be as focused on the romance aspect of it as it does with our characters kind of dealing with their own family struggles and like what it means to be the dark one and shunned and be the dark king and stuff like that. And so I can really appreciate that it balances the romance and the like story part of it. I think because the romance is a little slow and it feels like we haven't made too much progress on that end until like very, very recently, I'm gonna put it into B tier. For our last webtoon of the list, we have Our Walk Home. And yes, it is a BL. Put another on the BL counter. Now, this one is one, once again, where the art sucked me in before the story did, and I stayed for the story. The idea of being perfect and the struggle that comes along with it is something that I related to very heavily because when I was in high school, I felt a lot of pressure to be perfect, to be top of my class, to do all the extracurricular activities, to get into a good college. And that weighed really heavily on me. I feel like I can relate really heavily to the main character and his struggles of needing to be perfect all the time, but also finding a romance that allows him to not be perfect around someone. I'm gonna put this one in S tier. I really enjoy this one. Okay, that is it for our webtoons. So now we move on to manga. There are less manga than there are of webtoons, so we're over the biggest chunk of them. Starting out, we have Hunter x Hunter, because Hunter x Hunter has been publishing chapters recently, yay! But oh my gosh, you might as well just call it plot dump, because that's kind of what it feels like to me, and it feels like a chore to read Hunter x Hunter now. I loved the anime, and I am going to rewatch it this next year with Joe because it is amazing and I just need to see it again. But holy crap, the manga is just, it's reading a book. It's not even a manga at this point. And I love Karapika. And this part is a Karapika part. And it's just, I can't do it. Oh god, this hurts to do, but I'm gonna put it in. Oh god, I'm so sorry. Oh god. Oh, we're off to a bad start. Next, we have Parasite. I love the 90s manga aesthetic. It feels very Yu Yu Hakusho, the outfits the characters were wearing. It is so good. I want to have drip like they have drip in these 90s manga. The story of Parasite, I thought it was pretty good. I pretty much binged it all in a few sittings. It was pretty short, so I can do that. I have not watched the anime yet, but it is on my list to do. So I'm just ranking this based on the manga. I thought it was, yeah, the end was kind of strange, kind of okay. So I'm gonna put this into B. Next, we have Kasane. If you've ever wanted a pretty messed up manga, this one kind of hits. If the idea of face swapping with a kiss to get a leg up and to go into theater wearing someone else's face sounds interesting to you, Kasane is great. It is definitely a drama. I kind of read online that it was a horror a bit, which I wouldn't call it a horror at all. Things don't scare me very easily, so I'm probably not the best judge of that. As a thriller, ooh, this one was good. There is no such thing as a good character. Okay, the characters are written great, but they're all bad people. They're all morally gray and bad people. And it's just really fun to read about bad people doing bad things sometimes. And that's exactly what this is. The ending? I don't know. I liked the ending. I read people's thoughts and they didn't like the ending, and I thought it was good. I'm putting it into A tier. I thought it was really good. Next, we have Blight of Man. This is aliens, but weirder. Aliens and spirits, but weirder. Again, this is one I read every chapter and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Not because I don't understand, but because it's just, what the heck is going on? The art in this is crispy. It looks so good, and it's just crispy, like a cracker crunch, you know? You probably don't know. It's so intriguing to me, and it feels like we're kind of getting on the cusp of the end of it. I think I'm gonna put it in B tier. I am just gonna start out, I'm gonna put this an S tier immediately. The Summer Hikaru Died is one of my favorite mangas ever. It nails the creepy, eerie atmosphere that I love so much. It's not like gore and stuff like that creeps me out. It's the vibe that it gives. And the whole idea of your best friend being replaced by an eldritch horror wearing your best friend's dead corpse, that's terrifying and I love it. S tier, easy. I wish there was more like it, and I am constantly searching. So if you have any recommendations, if you know anything else that is like that, please tell me because I want to read it. Next up, we have Goku Rakugai. Again, this one is an easy S tier for me. I read the one shot and then I read the first couple of chapters of it that had come out, and I bought the manga as soon as it came out in English. I love this one and I love the idea of this one, even though it's kind of a pretty basic shonen concept, but the art is good. I love Tao. Who doesn't? That's about it, man. Next up, we have Chojin X from the same mangaka as Tokyo Ghoul, so I decided to read it because I liked Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul Re? Chojin X kind of falls into that same problem that I thought Tokyo Ghoul Re had, was that there's too many characters and I can't remember who they are. They're introduced over here at the beginning, and then over here by the part they come back, I'm like, who is this guy? I don't know. I don't want to figure it out, so I'm just gonna pretend like I know. But the story is really good, and the concept is good, and the, I guess you could say, monster design is really, really good. But I'm gonna put it into B just because of that problem, that character problem. I Want to Hold Aono-kun So Badly I Could Die is one I found in searching for one like The Summer Hikaru Died. It is kind of similar, but also kind of different. It is a ghost and a girl, and she's in love with him, but he's not good. He is not good, and a lot of not good things happen, but she is just so head over heels in love that she just brushes everything off like it's okay, and everything is not okay, and I want the next volume to come out, and I will not be okay until it does. S tier! Next one, Carnival. So I read the beginning part of this, and then I had to put it into my on hold section. So it is not dropped because I do plan on finishing it up, because I like what I've read so far, but it just didn't keep me as enthralled as some of the other ones did, but I am interested to see where it goes. So I'm gonna put it into C in hopes that I can finish it up next year. Next, we have Pluto. Now, I love me some detective, some mystery. I loved Monster. It's one of my favorites that I have ever read, and a great anime as well. So this is by the same mangaka, and because the anime came out kind of recently, I wanted to read the manga before I watched the anime, which I still haven't done yet. I was just looking for a good detective mystery, and this hits the spot. The mangaka does such a good job of writing detective things and mysteries. If you're looking for a good mystery, I highly recommend this one. Even if you've already read the Astro Boy that it's based on, I went into this not knowing that, so it was just mind-blowing for me. It was so good. I'm gonna put it into A tier, but like a high A tier, you know? Next up, we have Noragami, which finished this year. I absolutely loved Noragami. And you know what? Hear me out. I liked the ending. I didn't think the ending was bad. So many people hated the ending right when it came out, and I didn't think it was too bad. But you know, I also just seem to like a lot of things, and I like to give a lot of things the benefit of the doubt, it seems like, just because I don't know, I like to be positive, I like to enjoy myself. Overall, as a manga, I'd have to put Noragami at A tier. The last arc kind of was a little less strong than I would have hoped, but I still think it was really good. So I think that's the only thing that keeps it from being an S tier for me. Also, when's the next season of Noragami anime coming out? Because I need it. Please. Next one, it's probably Gantz, but I read it in my head as Gantz because where I'm from, everything just goes through your nose and is so Gantz. I didn't like it. I'm so sorry. So many people like this one. I thought the main character was so annoying and so insufferable. The story was so weird. I stuck it out through the end, but man, it was kind of a drag. I don't think it was quite as bad as an F, but it's like low D tier because the art was good. I'm gonna say that because the art was good. It's D. Next, Fire Punch, Tatsuki Fujimoto, Chainsaw Man's mangaka. I wanted to read more stuff by him because I really liked Goodbye Eri and Look Back and some of his other one-shots that he's published. So I wanted to give Fire Punch a go. And oh boy, is it weird. If you like weird and you like Tatsuki Fujimoto stuff, I highly recommend Fire Punch. But if you don't like weird, maybe don't go for this one. When I was reading it, I could not tell you where the plot was going, and I was just along for the ride. And I thought it was really fun. I'm gonna put it into B tier. Okay, next, Black Butler. I really like Black Butler, honestly. A lot of people don't like it because they don't like the relationship between Ciel and Sebastian, like how people shipped them together, which like, ew, that's weird, don't do that. But as a story, I really enjoy it. You know, Ciel is really annoying, but he's not so annoying that it makes me hate the story. He's just kind of like a spoiled brat rich kid who does whatever he wants to climb to the top. And you know, I can appreciate that. And also, man, just look at Sebastian. Come on. Who wouldn't want a demon butler who wants to eat your soul? Also, how can you not love Snake? The guy is adorable. I think I'm also gonna have to put Black Butler in B tier because it kind of drags in some spots, but it's interesting. Next, we have My Dress Up Darling. I absolutely loved the anime, and that's what made me start reading this one because I could not get enough of it. I could not wait for more. Maureen is actually one of the reasons I went and got my freaking industrial bar piercing. I'd wanted one forever, and then I was like, she's real cute with it, so why not just be Maureen and have the same piercings as her? I absolutely love Maureen and Gojo's relationship. It is just top tier. There's only like a tiny bit of misunderstanding arc, and it doesn't even last that long in the grand scheme of things. Just read the most recent chapters. I promise you, just read the most recent chapters. It is so good, so good, so worth it. The payoff is there, I promise. A tier. Next, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. I think the art style of this manga is one of my favorites of all time. It is just so unique, just the way that it is, and I love it so much. I know I've said that a lot about a lot of things. I tend to not read things that I don't like, if you've noticed. I think the story is really good, and I am completely interested in where this most recent arc is going. I am completely caught up with it and waiting for the next chapter. A tier. Next, Dorohedoro. So I started reading this one in like physical mangas. Like, here, let me go get them. So I made the decision to start reading this in physical mangas. And boy, that was a bad choice, because you know how hard it is to find these freaking things? It is so hard to find them. And I'm only on volume 9 because it's so hard to find them. And I want to keep reading it because I am just absolutely enthralled with this story. But my local Barnes & Noble doesn't keep them in stock, and apparently Amazon doesn't keep them in stock either because it's just impossible to find them. Anyways, A tier. Highly recommend if you can find it or just read it online. Next up, Bungo Stray Dogs. So I picked up reading this one after the most recent season of the anime was over because I just needed to know what happened next. Come to find out that the anime was actually ahead of the manga. But now that it's been a while and we're kind of past the end of the anime again, I am just... Okay, I love Bungo Stray Dogs, and spoiler warning, big spoiler warning. Go to this time if you don't want to be spoiled about Bungo Stray Dogs. Time Sword? What's up with that? Like, what is that garbage? Fourth dimensional being? Whoa, what the heck what is going on? It feels a little sus to me. I don't really like it too much. Kind of makes me angry. Am I gonna stop reading it? No, I am way too interested in this book. Also, rest in peace, everyone. They just created a dude who can kill anyone whenever he wants, and then everyone dies, and... okay, enough of that. No more spoilers. So, based purely on the manga that I've read so far, I'm gonna... oh, this might make people angry. I'm gonna put it in B tier, just because it pisses me off. Next, we have Berserk. I have to say, the Golden Age arc of Berserk is one of my favorite pieces of manga that I have ever read. And it is messed up to no end, but the art is freaking amazing. 10 out of 10 top tier. The story, amazing. 10 out of 10 top tier. It is just one of those things that has stuck with me ever since I have read it. I am only a little bit past the Golden Age arc reading it. I'm collecting the big thick ones in physical copies, and I just need to find time to read it. But honestly, I'm gonna, just for the Golden Age arc alone, it has to go into S tier. I think I might actually get hate mobbed if I put it in anything else but S, but it deserves it. Next, we have The Ancient Magus Bride. I hope I'm saying that right. So I started off really liking this one, and then we got to the school arc, and I'm kind of just like, It's fine. It's interesting. I'll keep reading it, but it's Ooh, another one that's finished this year. Jujutsu Kaisen. Oh boy, that final battle, that was pretty rough. Reading that as the chapters came out, oh, that was pretty rough. The ending, did not like. Okay, spoilers, okay, end of Jujutsu Kaisen spoilers, skip to this time if you don't want to hear them. I did not like the ending, but I did like the way that Yuji defeated Sukuna. I thought that that was really smartly done, but the overall ending where everyone is just like not dead? What the heck? Are you kidding me? How'd that happen? Are we in a dream? Is it real? Why is Gojo the only one that died? What about everyone else? Like, that doesn't seem fair. At least revive Gojo if you're gonna revive everyone else, but I digress. Okay, end of spoilers. Now time to rank it. I'm gonna put it overall into B tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put it into B tier. I had a hard time understanding a lot of the things going on and a lot of the powers, and it just kind of felt like plot dump, here's their powers, oh, now they're gone. Next person, here's their powers, plot dump, oh, next character. Okay, next manga. We have What a Wonderful World by the same mangaka that wrote Goodnight Poon Poon, which again is one of my favorite ones. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I read this earlier this year and I don't really remember it that well. I didn't think it was bad, but I, for the life of me, cannot remember it. And I don't know what that says about me or about the manga, but I think that says it was probably mid, so I'm gonna put it into C tier. Next one, another one that ended, Boys Abyss. If you are looking for another one with lots of morally gray characters, lots of characters who are awful people, lots of awful situations that you have no idea how the characters are gonna get out of, read Boys Abyss. If you want depression, read Boys Abyss. I thought it was fine. It kept me in every single week. I wanted to read the chapters as they came out, but overall as a story, me, it was fine. C tier. Okay, next up, we have a one-shot called Period, and I believe it is the same mangaka that did the summer Hikaru died. A lot of the things I read, people didn't like this online. I thought it was so well done for how short it was. The way the story unfolded on itself in the short time it had felt so good, and I was just like, what? I read it a few times over on itself to kind of get all of the foreshadowing and whatnot. Yeah, A tier. Okay, next up we have, I'm not quite sure if you say it, M-A-D-K. I just call it Medic because that's fun. Another BL. Hey, add it to the counter. Another BL. This one is very messed up BL. This one has smut in it. You can even kind of see on the cover the little parental advisory sticker. Yes, this is a smutty one, and a very messed up smutty one. The whole beginning of the story has our main character summoning a demon to eat his guts. And he does. And it's gross. But I love it. Again, for a smutty one, the story was pretty good, I think. I liked how it wrapped up. I think the ending was pretty perfect for the story that it was trying to tell. And yet another one into B tier. So the next one is Levius Est, Levius EST. So I had read Levius, the original one, a couple years ago, and decided this year to get in to Levius Est, the sequel. Overall, I thought it was really good. It was cool to be back in the world with the cybernetic boxing. It kind of lost me where the story went. It kind of hit more of that like weird supernaturally thing that I just didn't think fit with the world they had built already. I don't know, maybe I missed something, but the ending was fine. I didn't like the ending too much, but yeah. Overall, I thought it was fine. Another for the C tier. Next, we have Billy Bat. I truly cannot explain to you the plot of Billy Bat. Not because I don't remember Billy Bat, but because I have no idea what happened. I do not know what was going on. What is the bat? Who knows? The first part of the manga, where you have Kevin 1, I'll call him, I thought was really great, and I really enjoyed the first part with the first Kevin. But when the story transitioned over to the other Kevin being the main character, that's where it just completely lost me. I just kind of went with the flow and finished it to the end. I thought I was gonna be getting another detective one, like Monster, because it's the same mangaka. I was like, hey, same mangaka, he knows how to write a good mystery. Let me give it a try. Yeah, this one's a mystery because I have no idea what the heck happened during it. But it was a fun read. I still think I'm gonna put it into C tier though. Next, we have Act Age. So I started reading this one because I saw a video about how the mangaka was an awful person and how the manga was canceled because he did awful things, and I was like, oh, manga's probably gotta be something then. Yeah, it was good. It was a really good story, and it really does stop in the middle of an arc, and it kind of makes you angry when you realize there's nothing else to read and there will never be anything else to read. But overall, the story that was told, I'd say B tier. I thought it was pretty good. I would have liked to see where it went, but we'll never know. Next up, we have Magus of the Library. So this one publishes one volume in English every single year. The world feels so large. Like kind of how Lord of the Rings feels, where it's just, you know, there's a world way bigger than our main characters out there. And I don't know how the mangaka quite accomplishes making it feel so large, but they just do it. It's just good. The art is amazing. The story is simple, but I love our main character, and I love how he's kind of discovering the world along with us as readers. And yeah, this one, I immediately go and buy the volumes every single year when they come out. And it has slowly become one of my favorite series. So I'm gonna put it in A tier. Next up, we have Witch Hat Atelier. Yay, I love this one. It's getting an anime. Let's go. I'm so excited. Okay, this one is another one of my favorites, and I am going to put it in S tier right away. This is another one where the art is just one of my favorite things, and it tells the story, and I like how slowly it tells the story because it kind of lets you get a feel for the whole world. Man, my boy Alrugio, I love him. I love him. And that's all I have to say. Go read it. Go watch the anime when it comes out. It's so good. Next up we have Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen, which is a spin-off of that one. Like I said, Ulrugio. He's in this one a lot, and I love him. It's just a fun little slice of life version of the original Witch Hat. And it's just great to see the characters having fun when they're very much not having fun in the original Witch Hat. Next up, we have One Piece. I started reading it a couple years ago, and I read through the first, like, was it 800 or 900 chapters in about a month. It was pretty easy to keep up what was going on with it while I was binging it. But then I started reading one chapter at a time, and then it started to lose me. And then I had no idea what was going on anymore, and there was so much going on, and so much going on in every single panel, and eventually I just got overwhelmed and had to put it on my hold right now while I build up some chapters to kind of binge it all at once again. I stopped just after the Egghead Island arc. And yes, I am watching the anime, but I am only picking and choosing the arcs that I want to watch because, man, those episodes are slow. I think overall, just because, oh gosh, this is gonna ruffle a lot of feathers, I'm gonna put it in a B tier. Not because it isn't good, sorry. Anyways, moving on. Next, JoJo Lands. The very, very first manga I ever read was JoJo Part 7 Steel Ball Run, and that has stayed at the top of my list as one of my favorite mangas of all time. Not just because it was the first I read, but because it legitimately is amazing. And just that JoJo craziness. Now, Part 9 of JoJo Lands, only has a, I don't know, there's like 15 maybe chapters of it out, and it's JoJo. It's got the stands that are just increasing in what is going on factor, and the story that is just like, what's the lava rock? I don't know, Araki just created it. I don't know how he comes up with these things, but I think just by the sheer fact that it's JoJo, and I love seeing whatever Araki comes up with every week or every month, it's going into A tier. Next, Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest. Makes me want to bang my head against this desk. It is just the same thing over and over and over again. And I watched the entirety of Fairy Tail over COVID, which was the same thing over and over again, but somehow in manga form it is way less entertaining than in anime form. And I do not know why I continue to torture myself with a new chapter every single week. Mild spoiler warnings for the most recent chapters as of filming this. The Oración Seis came back, and I want to bang my head on the table. Why can't you create new villains? Why is it them again? Why is it the same thing over and over again? Why am I still reading it? I don't know, but it's going into D tier. Next, we have Dead Rock by the same mangaka, Fairy Tail and Eden Zero. I wanted something to fill the void after Eden Zero ended, because Eden Zero was just great, and I loved it, which we'll get to that later. But I wanted something to fill the void, and I saw that, oh, he's making a new one called Dead Rock. And the beginning sucked me in, but it just kind of feels mid. It didn't get me like Eden Zero got me. I'm gonna put it into C tier. Next, Black Clover. I love me a main character who's annoying and yells and screams. Like, seriously, non-sarcastically, I love very annoying characters. Asta, Zenitsu, Deku, so many people hate them, but I love them. They're annoying. They're endearing. They're great. This final arc of Black Clover has been publishing kind of slow, but the chapters have been pretty good. And I think it's a pretty good shonen, to be honest. It's like average, but like average good. So I'm gonna put it in like a B, but like mid B, you know? Next, we have After God. This one, the art is freaking amazing. Oh my gosh. I will put up on the screen some examples of the art in this, but I just cannot believe how good the art is. The story is strange and kind of loses me at times, but it doesn't matter because the art is good and it's pretty and I can look at it. The most recent chapter that has come out, I'll put up whatever chapter that is, but it has probably been my favorite chapter that has come out so far of it. And I'm gonna put it into A tier. Next we have Whisper Me a Love Song, which is not a BL, but a GL. Whisper Me a Love Song I thought was really cute. I wanted to read something that was kind of similar to Bloom Into You, which I had just finished at the time of picking this one up. And this one definitely hits the same vibe as that. But it's got music, so it's kind of like Given, but like girls, but like not quite as good as Given was. The main romance with the two main characters kind of wrapped up a while ago in the manga, and now we're kind of onto these side characters, and I'm kind of like, I don't really care about you, because it seems like the main story's kind of over. So it's lost me in the most recent chapters. So while I really liked it at the beginning, I think I'm gonna have to put it in a C tier. Next up, we have Gift of Poison. This one was one that was recommended to me on the Manga Plus app, and I was like, you know, I don't have enough things I'm reading apparently, so let's read another thing. I thought the beginning setup was pretty good, like blackmailing him for stealing paint and stuff. That was good. And then you got into the middle chapters, and it was just like the same thing over and over again, and he does something bad, and he gets blackmailed, and he gets blackmailed into doing something else, and oh no, he's doing something bad again. And it's just like, okay. But the ending, I think the ending saved it. A lot of people didn't like this manga, and a lot of people didn't like the ending. But I think the ending saved it and wrapped it up really well. Honestly, I think it put it up to a B tier, the ending of it, which is kind of crazy considering the other reception that this one has had. I liked the art. I really liked the use of color, especially in the final chapters. I liked the occasional use of color in the art, and I just thought it was brilliant, the art. Which, I mean, if you're making a manga about art, then the art in it better be good. Next up, we have Dandadan, which, I don't know if you've been watching the anime, but anime of the year, top tier, OP of the year. It is so good, and please go and watch Dandadan. I just cannot recommend it enough, honestly. I started reading Dandadan like 3 years ago when it was still in the like giant worm arc. If you know, you know. So I've been reading this one for a while, and every single arc just seems to get better than the last, and the crazy stuff that goes on, just it gets crazier and crazier, and you just accept it. One of the most recent arcs with character Zuma, like, he is such a great character, and every character they've been adding on to our main little team of people is so good. If you kind of like wacky things like Chainsaw Man, but like not as brutal as Chainsaw Man, definitely check out Dandadan, the manga and the anime. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it is an S tier for me. I was waiting for the anime for so long. Next up, we have another series that finished this year, My Hero Academia. I know I've said this a lot, but a lot of people didn't like the ending, but I thought the ending was fine. I don't know if I'm just reading the people who like to hate on things, but I thought the ending of My Hero was fine. Even good, dare I say? I just didn't get all the hate behind it. Overall, I thought it was just like an average shonen. I mean, I've watched the anime, and I thought the anime did a good job. I skipped over some parts like the class tournament battle, which I thought was boring, but honestly, I thought it was pretty good. I think I'd put it in a B tier. Just, it's a solid shonen from beginning to end, I think. Next up, we have Blue Exorcist, which Blue Exorcist fans rejoice. We have been getting new episodes, finally, of the anime. Yeah, I've been enjoying the manga a lot. I've been enjoying watching the anime a little more. But honestly, at this point though, I'm just kind of interested to see the end of it. See it through to the end. It's kind of one of those that I feel like, yeah, I've already spent this long reading it, I might as well get to the end. But not because it's like bad. It's just like, yeah, they're battling against demons. That's about what they're doing. They're just battling against demons. So, I'm gonna put it in a C, but like high C tier. Blood on the Tracks, which it is all completely out, but I have not finished reading it yet. Blood on the Tracks ranks at the top of my favorite horror manga. I would call it a horror. It is so empty feeling. The atmosphere makes you want to vomit is the best way to put it. The situations and just the panels with no dialogue and it's just art makes me want to throw up. but in the best way possible. It makes me so uncomfortable, and I have loved every single second of it. S tier. Next up, we have Blue Period. The first arc of Blue Period before he gets into college, I think was just peak. Now the arc when he's in college is also peak. It's been good from the beginning, and it has not slacked since then. I really relate to Yataro's struggles of feeling like an imposter in what he does, because I went to college for music, and there are so many people around me who were so good at what they did, and I couldn't help but look at them and think, why am I here? Because I don't deserve to be here like they do. Like, why am I here? Yataro's struggles with the same thing just really hits. That's about what I can say. It's very relatable for me. So I'm gonna put it in S tier because it's just so good and so relatable. Eden Zero! Eden Zero finished up this year, and I really liked the ending of it. Again, I thought it was great. And dare I say, I thought Eden Zero was better than Fairy Tail. That might get me a lot of hot water, but I've liked Eden Zero a lot more than I liked Fairy Tail. Mostly because Eden Zero kind of meanders a bit, but not as much as Fairy Tail does. It has its point it wants to make, and it gets you from point A to point B and just tells you the story. Fairy Tail kind of felt like it's like, oh, we're battling this guy, we're battling this guy, we're battling this guy, kind of like an endless thing that, like, there was no ending meant for it to happen, so it just kind of went on and on and on until the author was like, oh, gotta end it now, let's do something. But no, Eden Zero just told the story it wanted to tell. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in A tier. That might be sacrilege, but that's just what I feel like. Another one that is finished up this year, Shibatarian. And another one that is mega weird. If you're looking for a kind of zombie apocalypse type of, like a zombie apocalypse alien invasion type of thing, read Shibatarian, because it is strange and it is short, and you'll finish it and be like, what the heck just happened? I'm gonna put it into B tier just because it was good, but it was like fine. It wasn't bad, wasn't the best, but it was good. For the last manga on the list, we have Spy Family. So I've been reading Spy Family as the physical releases come out, and I'm kind of disappointed in Spy Family a bit because the opening of the manga made me think it was going to be more focused on like the spy part and the war part, but it just kind of turned into a comedy where like Anya does silly things and Yor does silly things and less focused on the actual, what I feel should be the main plot of it. And that just kind of made me sad that it wasn't what I expected. But the most recent volume I read I thought was really good. That was the one with the bus hijacking part. I thought that was really good. So it kind of hit a slump and then picked back up for me. But overall, I'm gonna have to put it into C tier just because it let me down. I'm so sorry. Okay, now it is time to move on to books. I'm gonna start off with specifically the Danmei books that I read, so every single one of these is gonna get another point on the BL counter. What we're gonna be starting off with is Guardian. So I read the 7 Seas release of Guardian, so the 3 volumes of that came out. So I'm gonna review each of these books as the 7 Seas release versus like as a whole story. So, volume 1 of Guardian. The story sucked me in completely, and the world and the mystery around it and whatever was going on just hooked me right in completely, and I was so interested to see where it went. So book 1 I'm gonna put up into A tier. Book 2 I thought was fine. It kept me going with the plot line, kept me hooked in, but kind of started to feel a little bit plot dumpy, and I started to get worried, like, oh no, what's going on? Which I'm gonna put it into B tier. And then the 3rd volume just absolutely dumps the plot on you, and I'm like, where's the world building? I want to be here longer. If Guardian as a whole was the same length as like Heaven Official's Blessing, where you get 8 full volumes of it and the extras, I think it would have been so much better. I loved the world that it created, but it felt like all of the lore was just plot dumped on me instead of being told to me in a story, and that made me sad because the main characters and their stories just was so good, and I wanted so much more out of it. Still, I still thought it was pretty good, and I'm gonna put it into B tier as well. I just wish there was more. Next, I read the entirety of Remnants of Filth, the fan translation, so I'm gonna review that as a whole versus the Seven Seas books that have come out. I did not like Remnants of Filth that much compared to the other Danmeis I've read. The beginning was pretty okay, and it got me really curious, but then once Gumang kind of gets his memories back the first time, it just kind of feels like it's like downhill, and like the ending was just like, I did not like the ending at all. For once, I didn't like the ending of something. And it's Remnants of Filth. And I know so many people like this, but yeah, it just wasn't the vibe for me. And it's not even because it was gruesome or angsty or anything. It just like felt not that well, I don't want to say not that well written, but like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I am so sorry. It's going into D tier. Next up, we have Volume 5 of Husky and His White Cat Shizun. I have a lot of high hopes for Husky and His White Cat Shizun because the story seems to be going in a good direction. Now, Volume 5 focuses a lot on backstories of characters who are not the main characters, who I didn't really care about. So this volume as a whole was like, eh. The end was great because you get a confession and you get a little romance. But the rest of the book is just kind of like, yeah, there's a backstory and they're off on this island and kind of doing their thing, and that's fine. So I'm gonna put that in a C tier. But we get to Volume 6 that I recently finished reading, and I thought Volume 6 was probably my favorite of the series so far to come out, because we have Moran losing his mind because of his previous life coming back to haunt him. And I think that kind of angst is so good. He doesn't know if his whole life he has built up, his new life, if it's just going to come crashing down around him. And he's going crazy, and you know, I think it's great. Chuwaning is a complete enabler of this insanity too, because he just won't let Moran talk to him, because he's like, it's fine. You don't gotta tell me. It's fine. I'm just gonna kiss you and it's gonna be fine. Which, like, don't do that, but also like, ah! Okay, anyways, this one does get a little smutty in a few places, which I don't mind because I like to read smut, but I think it felt like it was kind of making up for lost time of like, oh, the couple's finally together, might as well like make them do the thing a few times. But I really liked this volume a lot, especially the ending of it, and it's going into A tier. Next up, we have The Lord of the Rings. So this one is another one that I pick up and put down a lot, and it's kind of a difficult read. I love Lord of the Rings. I have watched the movies. I grew up watching the movies because my dad grew up reading the books and everything. I read The Hobbit in like 2 days and I loved The Hobbit, but The Lord of the Rings is a little more dense, a little more difficult to get through. If I hadn't have already seen the movies, it would have been a lot harder for me to kind of pick it up and put it down like I'm doing right now, but I am determined to get through it and read it because it is really, really good. I am just at the part right now where Strider is at the inn and talking to our Hobbit friends, and that is where I left off last. I'm going to put Lord of the Rings in A tier. It deserves to be there. Next, we have 1984 by George Orwell, a classic. You may have been forced to read it in school, but I was not. I decided to read it this year, and I finished it literally 2 days ago, and I didn't like it very much. I think Winston is an awful character and an awful person, and I think Julia is also an awful person, and I could not stand to read about them. It just seemed like a book about horrible people in a horrible situation doing horrible things, being treated horribly, and I was like, oh god, this is just kind of depressing, and like, Winston is insufferable and he just wants to fight everything, but he's too much of a weenie to do anything. And then Julia's just like r/men writing women, it felt like to me. It was just a real struggle to get through the chapter where like Winston has the book and he's like reading the book. So you're reading a book within a book, and then Winston's like, oh, this is interesting. I had to spark notes that chapter because I just couldn't do it at that point. I'm like, what's the point about reading about these characters when I hate them and nothing's going on and this is just what it is. But I really liked the end of the book, actually. I liked how the book started out, and I liked like Winston writing in his diary and being paranoid. And then I like, again, spoilers for this book, but it's kind of an old one, so I don't feel as bad. I liked when Winston gets captured at the end and is the torture and re-education part, and it made me feel so like, ew, this is gross. Like, ew, some of the things O'Brien is saying are like a little too close to things that people are saying and thinking now, and I'm like, oh god, I know why they're reading this in school now. I understand it. Overall, as a story, I'm gonna put it into C tier, just because it wasn't too enjoyable of a read, but I think the beginning and end were really good. Also, I have a lot of questions, like, what's the world like outside of Airstrip 1, England? Is the world really at war? Is the world outside just normal? Is England like at war with everyone else? Like, what is going on? We'll never know. And that's just how it is. Next up, we have the first book of the Mistborn trilogy, the first one, The Final Empire. So this one I'm reading because Joe recommended it to me, and we promised each other that I would read Mistborn if he would read Heaven Official's Blessing, which is one of my favorite series, and Mistborn is his favorite series. So I went into it like, this isn't what I usually read, and it's not quite my vibe, but you know, I'm kind of ready for something new. And by the time I was at the end of the third book, Hero of Ages, I am just like a full Brandon Sanderson fanboy now. Like, I get it. I completely get it now. I am ready to read Wax and Wane, the next Mistborn series, because I am so into it. I've already got them all on my e-reader, ready to go. I'm locked in. So, back to the first book, Mistborn, Final Empire. I really liked Kelsier. Kelsier is such a great character. What happens with Kelsier, if you know, you know. It felt like very traditional, like overcoming the dystopia, yeah, let's go type of book. And I thought it was good. And I would put this book into B tier. And then we get on to Well of Ascension, the second book in the series, which I was pretty bored for most of the book. But at the very end of the book, when war finally breaks out and everyone starts fighting, spoiler warning for Well of Ascension, skip to this time, because I want to talk about it. When Elend freaking decapitates his friend, and then they go back and Vin gets the freaking guts berserk sword and just starts cleaving people in half, my mind was blown, and I was like, this is peak fiction right here. This is so good. This makes up for the rest of the book being so boring. I'm also gonna put it in B. But Hero of Ages. Now, let me tell you about Hero of Ages. Hero of Ages absolutely blew my freaking mind with how it ended. And the rest of the book as a whole was just so much better than like Well of Ascension as a whole. And I think it was even better than Mistborn as a whole. But man, the end of Hero of Ages just made everything click into place. You realize everything has been planned from the beginning, and you're like, man, this is what good writing is. This is what a good author does. Like, nothing is useless in this book. Everything has meaning. And so I'm gonna have to put Hero of Ages and like the series as a whole, to be honest, as an S tier. It was easy to read, and it was a great story, and everything ends so well. It's just so good. Highly recommend. And because I am on the Brandon Sanderson kick and wanted just a little bit longer of a break from the Mistborn world, I decided to read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which I just started part 2 last night. The concept of this book is really, really good. The narration style is kind of that like, ooh, witty, I am the narrator and I'm gonna tell you the story, and like, oh, here's me interjecting type of thing. That usually doesn't vibe too well with me, but I'm I'm not hating it so far in this book. It almost feels too early to rank it, but since I'm reading it and it's on this list, I will put it just for part 1. I'm gonna put part 1 as an A tier. We will see how the rest of the book goes. I probably won't end up finishing it maybe into December, because it's the end of November as I'm filming this. Maybe into December, January, I might finish it. We'll see. Next up, we have Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, which probably one of my favorite books ever that I have read. And that's saying a lot because I have read a lot of books. The mystery of the world surrounding these characters just completely blew my mind. It blew me away, just how big this world seemed. Not too many things happen throughout the book. It's a pretty short one. I read it in a day, in an afternoon, sitting around the campfire while camping. I just could not put it down. I had to finish it. It's supernatural, it's got like witches, and you're just kind of dumped into the world. It felt like the world had always been there. And the way that it ends, I think is just perfect. If you're a kid and you watch the movie Coraline, which is also a book written by Neil Gaiman, and you liked Coraline, you should read The Ocean at the End of the Lane. Highly recommend it, and it's going into S tier. Next, we have one of the few non-fiction books that I have decided to pick up, called City of Darkness: Life in Kowloon Walled City. Now, it seems like Kowloon Walled City has become an info hazard for me, because I got recommended a video of it on YouTube and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. I got my hands on a PDF of this book, which I guess it's really hard to find, and have been making my way through it. It's a bunch of photography and stories of people who lived in this city in China. It is so intriguing to me that this place actually existed at a point and that it doesn't exist anymore. Like, a city that had 33,000 people in it is just completely demolished and gone now? That blows my mind. As a book, I think it's really interesting, and I love the photography in it, which is one of the biggest reasons I wanted to pick it up and look through it. So I'm gonna put it into A tier. Next up, we have the other nonfiction book I read this year, Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. I have a bit of a technology addiction, a bit of a phone addiction. I am constantly scrolling on my phone on like Instagram and Reddit and stuff. I've pared down a lot and I'm not on Twitter or Facebook anymore, but it's a big problem when it starts to consume a lot of my life. And so I decided to give this book a try to see if it can help me at all. And I found it to be really insightful and really helpful, actually. For a while, I was actually using this flip phone, if you've seen my video about it, but I found that it was way too difficult to use that phone, just in modern society is how it is. And I've tried to dumb down my smartphone, but it's kind of been hard to sustain that. If you're someone who kind of struggles with technology addiction, phone addiction, social media addiction, I recommend giving this book a try because it has a lot of pretty good ideas. Enjoyable as a book? I mean, it's nonfiction. I'm gonna put it into B tier because it's nonfiction and kind of just like a guy talking at you the whole time. But the ideas he presents are pretty good, so B is deserving. Now we are on to the miscellaneous category, I'll call it. These are technically in books, but like started out as no sleeps or creepypastas, and I have a podcast special mention, which I think kind of counts as reading. It's like audiobooks, but a podcast. Anyways, the first one of those I have is Pen Pal, which I read as the no sleep on Reddit versus the book cover that I have here. And that was so creepy. I think it's one of the best no sleeps that I have read and that has been posted, which I've been reading creepypastas and no sleeps since high school, middle school. Oh God. I remember I would sit in study hall and use my little VPN on my iPod Touch to read creepypastas during study hall. Oh my God, throwback. It just hits the like, ew, I want to vomit type of horror. That's my favorite. And I think it belongs in S tier. Next up, we have Borrasca, another one that I read on no sleep, and that also hits the I'm going to puke because this is awful kind of horror. It's a little too real, and a little too gross. But I think that's what really makes it horrifying. I'm gonna put it into A tier because I think it kind of is maybe one step too disgusting. It's crossed the line a bit for me. If you like nasty, nasty horror, it's a definite read. Finally, the last thing I have to rank, Creepcast, the podcast. I've been watching Wendigoon since during COVID when he was making those, the horror movie iceberg charts. And I've been watching him ever since, and when I saw he had a podcast with Meat Canyon that was reading creepypastas, I was like, I gotta do this. Creepypastas were my life. I've read all of them. I've almost listened to every single episode that's come out, so you can add all of those creepypastas to this list too, but I just wanted to put it on here. I love Creepcast. I listen to it when I work out. I listen to it on runs. It's funny, and it's great. Sometimes I don't agree with their assessments of the creepypastas, but it's fun, and it's probably my favorite podcast that's out there. So, that is my whole iceberg chart. I will put it up here so you can see where everything ranked. That is everything that I read this year. Let me know down below if you've read any of this stuff too, what you thought about it, what you thought of my rankings, because I know people are gonna have some opinions about where I put some of the stuff. Thank you all for watching. If you got through to this point of the video, I'm sure this video is gonna be super long, so it really means a lot to me that you stuck around this long. If you liked this, check out some of the other stuff I have on my channel. I'm gonna try my best to start posting more, so subscribe and keep an eye out for more stuff, and thanks for watching. Bye.